Hello, awesome people in the world. Hey, welcome back to the channel. So, I want to talk to you about one of Neville's concepts called brazen impudence, okay? So, it's not brazen impotence. We're not talking about that. Although that is a concept he just talked about, and I'm going to be talking about that in another video because people really tie that up to surrender. It has nothing to do with surrender, and surrender has nothing to do with surrender. But brazen impudence, somebody asked me about like how to break this down. So, brazen impudence just really, and this is a really bad definition, but this is just to give you kind of the core idea behind it. And then we're going to break it down and then turn that into a technique, okay? So, brazen impudence, if you really, really fundamentally want to find like just a one word for it, it's being stubborn or stubbornness, right? And so, again, this isn't just the kind of stubbornness, though, that's like, I believe what I believe and I don't want to change my mind in terms of like, let's say, brazen impudence in this world, right? Because you get that a lot, which is essentially confirmation bias. Okay, so you have to understand though, there are different types of confirmation bias because that's what brazen impudence is. Okay, it is a confirmation bias. Now, here's the thing. Can you ever escape confirmation bias as humans while we're in these avatar suits? No, because you need confirmation bias to actually form a belief in and of itself, which means you need to be looking around for messages, for like conversations, for things that you see. So you're using your sense, like your senses, right? Your inner senses to interpret your outer world. Okay, so get that. So brazen impudence, first and foremost, is learning how to guide the inner senses to interpret outer events. Okay, now I know that some people hear Neville and he says, "Oh, leave the world alone." I don't think he's saying be an automaton in this world, or like Adam Sandler was in the movie Click, where you just sit there and you don't interact. He's not saying that. In fact, I think it's the opposite. What he's saying is you pretty much mentally bulldoze through, right? Anything that doesn't look like your end desire. Okay. So again, brazen impudence is first and foremost, and I actually look at it on two levels. Okay. Most people will say it's only in here that you become stubborn. I actually don't agree with that. And I'm going to tell you why. But again, brazen impudence is becoming mentally convinced that you are the person, so much so that you begin also guiding the outer senses, right? So when he says don't trust the senses, what he's saying is don't trust the senses that are interpreting what you don't want. So then what does that mean? Well, in the Bible, there is a metaphor about a rod or a staff, right? Moses and his rod, right? And what does he do? Is he splits consciousness or he splits the waters, right? In two. And so again, Jesus and as the shepherd, right? He has a staff. These are all metaphors for guiding and shaping and controlling your thoughts and emotions. Okay. These are all esoteric metaphors for doing just that. So brazen impudence is basically this. There is no plan B. There's no plan C. There's no other option. You don't give yourself what if scenarios. There is no what if, right? So if you're in a situation where you're like, I've got to get a new apartment soon. Yeah, but what if they turn me down? What if the mortgage or whatever, right? What if the rental agreement isn't what I want? What if, and your brain goes, right? And so brazen impudence is the cure to overthinking, okay? Because if you really buy into it, if you really buy into I am wealthy, I always manifest what I want, this person always loves me, okay, then there's no other option. But if you're still in that where you're like, okay, I'm affirming, I'm doing all of these different things, but then things keep flooding in, then let me be direct to you. Then you're not in the state of brazen impudence yet, right? So brazen impudence is where you saturate the subconscious mind with the conscious mind. Okay, loads of people love to just talk about saturating the internal world, and that is part of it. But the reason why I don't agree with that, and I coach very differently, and I coach people how to do this on a regular basis by giving them a process, right? And it's a process that actually has worked foolproof, right? Is that you fundamentally not only get into the state, because I'm kind of against all of these words like states and even brazen impudence, right? Because our brain doesn't understand abstract. So if you don't understand and you've just, for example, been introduced to Neville, these aren't going to be helpful phrases to you. They're not. They're just not going to be great ideas to you. You'll be like, okay, I'm doing this and I'm mustering up enough energy and I'm being angry and it's just not working, right? And so that's not brazen impudence. Brazen impudence is this confirmation bias or this ability to say nothing else exists. Nothing. And I mean nothing else exists except this option. Yes, it is mental stubbornness. It's always mental stubbornness first, right? And so you're like, okay, I only see things and taste things and touch things and feel things that are mirroring my own stubbornness. Again, this is stubbornness towards your desire. You don't have to be stubborn towards other people around you. That has nothing to do with manifestation. That's what it means when it says ignore the world. You don't need to bring in people, right, to confirm your brazen impudence. In fact, if you try to control that, then you're still in the state of lack. Okay? You don't need to control anything in terms of what's going on out here. But what you can do is create an intimate connection with the inner self and then also create outward behaviors that mirror the inner self. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? You will hear different, but there's nothing wrong with that because neuroscience shows that if you create a romantic or intimate connection between the inner self and the outer self, or the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, you can literally manifest quicker, okay? So again, this doesn't mean that you go and you try to force people to believe things or whatever it is. That will come. Those actions will come if you've impressed the subconscious mind, okay? But again, brazen impudence gives up the what ifs. Brazen impudence doesn't see them. Brazen impudence only sees almost like a form of positive, flow-like tunnel vision, okay? Whereas there's negative that we've talked about in some of my other videos on fear, right? The positive is flow. That's how you know there's difference between, let's say, a fear-based tunnel vision that says, okay, I've now minimized my responses to fight, flight, or freeze, right? And then biologically, you start reacting to those lack of options, okay? Whereas flow is like, wow, I can see everything. Like I can see my situation. I can see how people are starting to mirror my behaviors and mirror my beliefs. So you look for the smallest hints in the world that start matching up with your brazen impudence, okay? So you are the architect. You are the artist, because what you're doing is you're fundamentally only painting with your five senses, first within, then without, right? So again, you can use the metaphor of like that old metaphor of the bull in a china shop, but all you're doing is mentally. So what you're doing is when the bull in a china shop, what are they doing? They're breaking shit, right? And so what are you doing? You're breaking shit. What that means is you are literally getting rid of any thought, any limiting thought, any fear, limiting fear, anxiety, and you're like, nope, nothing's getting through except my desired end, right? And so you can do practical tips, by the way, to get there. So again, let me break this down as we end this video. All right, so if you are using brazen impudence as a regular practice, which I encourage everybody to do, right, and you want to, again, like you would, let's say you want to manifest $1,000 in a day, okay? And then you hear conversations on the news about how money's hard to get. Okay, bull in China shop doesn't exist. It turn off the news, right? Be active and then start affirming that you do. Okay, so you're replacing any limiting thoughts with the new thoughts. That's fundamental step one. Okay, and then two, what you do is you then go looking. You full on use your mind, and yes, you can use scenes to do that throughout the day as well. But I'm saying with a conscious mind, start looking for things where your brazen impudence is at work and already at play. It doesn't matter how big, how small. This is what Neville means when he says to use selective hearing. Okay, internal, then external. Okay, so then you start looking only for things that are mirroring what you and who you are from the end state. Okay, so you want to be able to actually do this and use this, but the stubbornness is, I'm not allowing anything else in except anything that confirms my end desire. Okay, so again, yes, stubbornness, but stubbornness is a process. So everything that Neville does and writes and explores is a process. Almost every single thing. And if you follow me on Reddit as OK Initiative, you're going to see everything that I write down, right, is all about turning his phrases, his ideas into processes, right? And this is what I do as a coach when I'm working for high-ticket clients, like C-level executives, down to a struggling mother with 5 children. Whoever it is, there is a process, and this process is built for you to get you to where you want to be and to get you to become who you want to become. Okay? So again, really big recap. Brazen impudence is this confirmation bias. It's a positive tunnel vision. It's a mental stubbornness, not a 3D stubbornness, but it's a mental stubbornness of I am it, right? I am the operant power, because that's where you have to start with brazen impudence. If you start with like brazen impudence with I don't have any power, guess what? It doesn't matter how stubborn you are. It's not going to work. So brazen impudence, step one, get really intimate. And when I say intimate, I'm literally meaning date the imagination. Okay? Neville says that the imagination is a person. So imagine it's a person. Well, like whatever that means for you, do a morning routine, do a bedtime routine. This is what I do, right? And do it twice a day, and you get really saturated in the power of feeling like that power, the imagination is within you. It's power and wisdom. It'll figure out the how, right? But you can enjoy the how, you can enjoy the journey as you wait for it. But how do you enjoy the journey? Well, create some, like some play around with some possibilities here, right? Of how it's going to show up. That's fine as well. As long as you're doing it not from a state of lack and a state of fun and play and expectation, then that's very different. Do you hear that? So again, brazen impudence is here, then here. Okay? So again, I'm sure there's more to this, but I really, really wanted to get this out there because I know people were asking about how do you use it, what is it, and what are the tips? So again, get in touch if you're looking for coaching. Hope this was helpful. Much love. Thank you all for your support. Don't forget, if you're watching this during this 5-day challenge, tomorrow is day 3. So jump on that and invest in yourself. It's free. Would love to have you. There's also a private Discord group that you can join for free. And much love to you all. Be safe.